Okay, hey, it worked. Great. We normally don't have a lot of trouble with trying to do this live stream on the first take. So, hey, we are here live. I'm Joey.
I'm Lori.
We are Christ-centered marriage, and we are live. And um, hopefully, we'll have a good showing in it. And as we go, hopefully, with some questions and comments, and we can help you with anything you might be on your mind. It's a stormy night, so hopefully our internet is going to hold up on us. We're at the mercy of our cable company here until we decide to go fiber optics. That might be the route. Hey, if anybody ever had fiber optics, if you have fiber optics, let me know how it is, because we're dealing with a cable company that's kind of got a monopoly on it. So it's either them or the fiber optics. So we're going to talk about our trip to the Weekend to Remember conference at Branson that Family Life put on. And this is our second one. And this time it wasn't as of a more of a like a big bang impact. Last year it was huge. Mm-hmm. Huge. That's what we're going to talk about. What would you think? Just kind of doing a little starter conversations. What do you think different between last year when we went last year for us, the difference between last year and this year's conference for us?
Well, number one, since we'd been before, we kind of knew what to expect. And so it was more like a tune-up, more like a refresher course, if you will. Last year, we really didn't know what to expect. We just knew that something was wrong and we needed to fix it. Yeah. And we weren't like on the verge of divorce or anything, because we had already decided that we're not even going to go to that conversation. But we knew that our marriage could be better. And so we tried the marriage conference, and it really blew our minds how much it really helped, and what we really need, how much we really need to work on to really,
yeah. You know. And I think last year, the first time we went, it was almost every minute we were like, wow, mm-hmm. That's us. Like, you know, and this is the book. We don't flipping through the pages. We're just listening. And this year we was more relaxed, you know, and we were one of the few that were actually, you know, arm in arm. A lot of them, they were like this, you know, and you could tell, just like last, you could tell there was a lot of stress marriages.
We had a couple get up and leave in the middle. Did you notice that?
I know it was last year. I know the last year.
This weekend we had right in the middle of the second day, we had a couple that was, and they could have totally moved to a different location.
Yeah.
In the room, I just didn't see them again. But those two chairs remained empty.
Yeah.
The rest of the weekend, it's just weird. It was like, you know, not the whole time I thought, man, I hope they're okay. Man, I hope they're not like, okay, this is dumb. We're not doing this. Hopefully they just moved seats or something. You know.
Last year, we were frustrated with our life and our marriage, and probably just like you. And you're going to listen to this. You're going to say, man, it's me. You're going to say, wow, y'all marriage wasn't bad at all. You should hear our story. Man, we want to hear your story. If it's really private, just email it to us. We'll put our email address in there. But this year, it was a good time, and speakers were good. I think we enjoyed the speakers more this time. It was kind of, you know, kind of like going to church every Sunday. We enjoy going to church, and we get more out of it every Sunday. But like this time, we got more out of it because we wasn't there trying to fix a marriage in distress. We weren't in distress this year, but last year, we were kind of in a little bit of distress. That's what we're going to talk about. Okay, so, all right. Lori, let's go ahead and get this started.
All right, so just over 12 months ago, we went to our first weekend Christian marriage conference, and it made a huge difference in our marriage. Before that trip, Joey and I had gone through a few years where we drifted apart. We struggled a bit. We loved each other enough, and we wanted to make it better. So like I said before, we weren't like on the verge of divorce or anything. But we knew something was broken, and we needed to fix it, and we didn't like the way things were going. So we went to this marriage conference, and then last weekend, like you said before, that was our second time attending this marriage conference. And so the second time, it was more of we're here to enjoy it and just have time together and refresh what we already knew. And it was just kind of like a review and a refresher course. I keep saying that. That's basically what it was. So last year we were in distress and we knew we needed to do something, or, you know, our marriage wasn't going to thrive. And this year it was more like, that was so good last year, we're going to get a refresher this year.
Yeah. Yeah. And, And we were highlighting things and writing things down for this year. We're trying to we wanted to get some information so we can help you. Last year it was kind of like we were just on pins and needles, And they were like, okay, and we're gonna stop and we're gonna have a time for you and your spouse to talk. We'd be
Awkward.
And this time it wasn't so much. But anyway, this episode we're going to reveal how we were drifting apart in our marriage. So we're going to talk about last year when our marriage was in distress. That's what this episode. And next episode, we're going to talk more about this book and the things we learned from our both of our marriage conferences. But it's going to mainly next episode we're going to mainly talk about some of the things that we took away from the marriage conference last weekend. So last year, so we've been going on about a 12.5-month transformation. And we've been married going on, this is our 14th year, so we're about 13.5 years into it. So when we were about 12.5 years into our marriage, we finally said, something ain't right. We need to fix this. Because we don't want to end up going to the point where we're miserable and we just forced to stay married and miserable. We want a good, thriving marriage. So we went to this marriage conference, and it didn't make us perfect. It didn't fix all of our problems, but it made us realize.
It gave us tools.
Yes, we can fix this. That's what we're going to talk about today. We'll speak about some of the things we learned in our marriage conference, and then next week we're going to speak more in detail. So, okay, back to you.
All right. So, Family Life Christian Ministries hosts a weekend marriage retreat that we just went to this last weekend for our second time. FamilyLife.com. So it's Family Life, 2 words in one. FamilyLife.com. This is the name of the site, and you can look them up online. They have lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of resources. We just couldn't possibly go into all the stuff you could find on that website.
Oh yeah.
So just go there and check it out. We'll put that in the show notes later.
Yes.
Family Life hosts a Christian marriage conference retreat called A Weekend to Remember. My coffee cup.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Weekend to Remember.
Weekend to Remember. There we go.
Family Life. That's their logo.
And so they have been hosting these events since 1976. I was 4 when they started doing that. The goal of these events is to help husbands and wives create oneness in marriage. And for many there, that was not easy. And for us, it was not easy last year. Many who attended this event were really struggling in their marriage. And this event may have been the last option before divorce. Many, like us last year, were truly committed to our marriage. So divorce was not on the go list. We're not going there.
Nope.
But we did realize that things were not going very well, and there were things we needed to fix. So for us last year, we left that weekend totally transformed. But prior to that weekend, our marriage wasn't thriving.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to add, when we left that last year, one of the things we kept asking ourselves was, why don't they teach this in church?
Yeah.
Why is this not taught in church?
Yeah.
And so that kind of set us on a path. We'll get to that later. But so today we're going to share some of the struggles we had in our marriage, how we transformed our marriage, and what led us to starting this YouTube channel. All right, Joey, you're next.
Okay, let's go. A few months before we got married, that's nearly 13.5 years ago, we were introduced to resources that the Family Life Christian Ministries had. There was the person the minister who officiated our wedding was a member of the Family Life, and I think he worked there. He was actively working there, and he tried to, kind of get us involved in their books and their ministries to help us. And we were like, we got it. we are going to have the perfect marriage. We don't need no books. We don't need no conferences. We don't need no marriage conference. That's for people that are doing marriage wrong. We're gonna do it right. We just came from a divorce. We know what a failed marriage is like. And all these dates we went on, we talked about how marriage was bad. And I know what she wants, and she knows what I want. We're gonna do it right.
We didn't have a clue.
At that time, we didn't feel like we needed all that. But now, flash forward 12.5 years, we go, you know what? that guy that did our wedding, he was right.
Yeah.
We should have listened. We should have went to that
Should've read
weekend to
that
remember.
book.
We should have read those books, especially the books on the blended family too. The Smart Stepdad and Smart Step Family, all those books. Man, we should have read that. We wouldn't be here 12 and a half years later struggling.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to one of those Family Life sponsored weekend to remember weekend retreats. And we learned so much. Okay, Lori, fill us in.
Okay, so how bad was our marriage? Well, like I said before, we weren't at the point of divorce because we had already decided we're not going to use that word. That's not going to be an option for us. We said to death do us part, and that's what it's going to be.
Right.
You know, and at that point in time, it was like, this ain't the greatest.
Sometimes death to a part like this. Death to a part.
We didn't want that.
No. Oh, yeah.
So that was not going to be spoken in our marriage. And we weren't exactly roommates, but I would say we probably weren't far from it.
Mm-hmm.
So about 11 to 12 years in our marriage, we started having fierce arguments. And a lot of it had to do with our youngest boy. We'll get into that later. And we weren't really resolving them. We weren't discussing them and talking about them. We were just kind of, okay, we're done fighting and we're going to move on. Maybe we'll, start again tomorrow.
But that's whether it's your kids or whatever, that's a point in marriage where you get those fights and you're like, well, let's move on.
Mm-hmm.
And then 6 months later, you bring that back up because it was never resolved.
Yep.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. And so we just kind of, other than maybe the fighting, we kind of figured our marriage is probably like most marriages. We loved each other. We went to work every day. We just kind of went through the motions, and it was we weren't that different than anybody else. But as we sat there and listened to each session in that marriage conference, we realized more and more the issues we did have that we didn't realize we had. So we developed a list of some of our problems and the solutions to these problems that we implemented after that first marriage conference.
Okay, so here's some of our problems, and because of time, I'm not gonna be able to list them all. It will go 2 or 3 hours. We're not gonna be able to
go deep into each one. We're just gonna kind of do a quick flyby.
Yeah, we're just gonna do the highlights. And trust me, these are just the highlights. And
you might make a bunch of shows up.
Yeah, and you might think when we're done, you're like, that's it? Shoot, we can make your marriage look like the dream marriage. So, well, here's the deal. If you're watching this and you're thinking my marriage is in trouble, we want you to come out of this thinking I have hope. Mm-hmm. There is hope. You can change your marriage. So number one, something that we realize that is one of the number one contributing factors to all bad marriages is poor communication or no communication. Mm-hmm. We talk to each other, and we even thought that we probably communicate just as well as anybody else. We talked about school and work and going to church and paying the bills and, hey, we're going to go out one day this month. But it was superficial. Mm-hmm. It was all, what you call,
surface level.
Surface level. Yeah. It wasn't a deeper, meaningful conversation to where an hour later, what did we talk about? I don't know what we talked about. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of avoidance, and there was a lot of you do your thing, I do my thing. All right, so communication. That what we realized. We were not skilled at being good communicators as a husband and wife. So that's one we had to work on. Say, look, Lord, number two.
We were not united with dealing with our boys. And so like we said before, we have been married before and been divorced. And so we were a blended family, are a blended family.
Yeah, a unique situation.
And when we got married, our boys ranged from, what Hayden was like 2.
Yeah, 12.
And then the oldest one was like 11, 12. So mm-hmm. They were still pretty young. And so we, had to go through all the parenting and the discipline things. And so that was a challenge, which again, is one of those things where, we got this. And we found out later we didn't have it.
And I'm trying to be the dad, but I'm not the dad.
Yeah.
And had I read that Smart Stepdad book, that might have been a problem we not had.
Yeah. Well, anyway. Yeah. And our youngest boy has some behavioral issues, and that took a big toll on us. And, he's a good kid, but he just he just has some issues, and so we don't want to disparage him or anything,
A lot
but
of it is some of the influences around him.
yeah, and
That
so
all kids have these bad influences.
Yep. So that took a toll on us as well.
Okay. All right. Number 3. We settled into our own daily routines that did not involve us being together. You might think, well, yeah, that's all marriages, but it doesn't have to be. She's on one end of the house, and I'm on the other. We're doing our own thing. And we let the mundane things of life just kind of get in the way. The TV, on the phones. Oh my goodness, these stupid phones! I'm telling you, these stupid phones will take away your relationship. It will distract you, and it will ruin your relationship, whether it's your husband and wife or with the kids, or if the phones are a big distraction. Social media, you can keep on going. We let that stuff kind of get in the way. And there was little to no quality time. And once we started really trying, make an intentional effort to have quality time, we finally realized, like, we weren't doing this right.
Mm-hmm.
We just weren't doing it. We were two people really drifting apart. We weren't what you call roommates, married but roommates. Not yet.
Yeah, it was getting there.
It was getting there. And something else that we realized was a problem afterwards, but at the time we didn't realize it was, we went to bed at different times. Other than that one rare time once in a while. But most, and you know what that rare once in a while time is. But and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But we went to bed at different times. You're like, well, yeah. So what? I'm gonna tell you so what. Okay, so go ahead. Lower number 4.
We were overcommitted in church involvement. We volunteered for too many things.
Yes.
We're asked to do other things.
Oh.
Our extra church activities took away time together with our family and eventually wore us out. And we think it's good to be involved in church, but you don't just need to show up and sit on a pew. And
Yes.
But at the same time, you can overdo it, and your focus can be doing church instead of being there and being fed and really growing in your relationship with God and each other. Because we were literally at church. There were some Sundays where we were at church 5 or 6 hours doing meetings, and
not just in the morning.
Just church, and then meetings before
then
church,
3 or 4
meetings
hours at
after
night.
church,
And then we show up on a Friday night or whatever.
Yeah. And
she was going to every youth conference, and
he, counted and was like, okay, what is all those things I'm doing? And he counted like 7 things he was involved in, just him.
At the same time, not like
time.
I did this one year, then I did that one year. All these things I was doing at once. And all of those things were great. And like today, we heard a nice Christian lady trying to influence the church to help in the kids group. And you need to, but you can't do the kids group and then teach Sunday school and then
do the youth group.
Then do the youth group and serve in the kitchen and serve as an usher. And you can't do all them things at once. That was us.
That was us.
And that really wore us out. Okay, go ahead.
Well, that's just, and we just decided that it was wearing us out. We didn't have any joy in serving in church. It kind of got to where we dreaded going to church on Sunday because and he was preparing for a Sunday school class. We taught a college and career Sunday school class. So that by itself, that's one thing that takes up a lot of time, which is a worthy cause, but that was just one of 7 things he was doing. And so it just really wore us out, and it got to where it just took up all of our time, and we weren't spending any time working on our marriage. We were too busy doing church
or taking care of our family.
Yeah.
And then when a family issue came up, we had a problem with our boy, and we have a problem. We have problem with our youngest boy. They're serious. I mean, and we're not gonna get into it. That's but they're serious, and they you have to sit there and you have to focus on it. So when you're focusing on that and you're focusing on all these other things, it just wears you out. And we learned. Are you done with that?
Yeah.
I want to add something. Okay, I don't mean to interrupt you.
But
we learned at the marriage conference that sometimes you got to slow down. And when we were listening to Ryan and Selena Frederick, and we're going to talk about them too, one of the things he said early on in his marriage, he said, he told his wife, he said, we got to cut back on our church activity. And at first he felt guilty because, and I felt guilty. I got to tell the church that I can't do as much as I used to do, because I think that's where we got our thought from, was listening to Ryan Frederick. He said that the church activity was hindering our marriage. I think it's us. Mm-hmm. It's us. Okay. Anyway, number 5. All right. Here's the big one. Some of you might think we don't want to talk about it. Well, we didn't either, but it's the big one: sexual intimacy. Our sexual intimacy was lacking and nearly non-existent. And this might be where your attention gets piqued. You're like, okay, yeah, I'm listening now. She seemed uninterested, and I didn't understand, and I was frustrated, and I felt unwanted. But she didn't feel appreciated. A lot of women saying, "Yeah, that's right. That's all my husband wants. That's all he sees me as. He only wants one thing." I didn't understand, and her desire was diminished, and we were approaching a non-existent sex life. And it is very frustrating. And it could be the other way around. It could be the wife who has a desire and the husband doesn't. And Ryan and Selena Frederick had an episode last week about that. And there's many reasons why a husband becomes uninterested in physical intimacy. And most of the time it's the wife, and there's reasons too. You got to find out. You got to find out why. You got to find out why that desire is lacking in your marriage. We didn't know how to do that till the marriage conference. And so we'll talk about that. So the last problem we had, go ahead and talk about that, Lori.
We found ourselves screaming and yelling at each other more than we would like to admit.
Oh my goodness.
We still loved each other, but we just didn't know how to show it in a meaningful way. And it caused us to have a lot of frustrations in our marriage. And just like with things going on with our boys and his job. Yeah. We both have stressful jobs, and I'm a teacher. And so if you're not a teacher, if you don't know a teacher, you're not going to understand this, but being a teacher is very overstimulating. And I did not know that's what I was feeling until I had an intern last year, and she used that word, and I was like, that's what it is. That's what I feel every day.
She said overstimulating. I said aggravating.
But I thought, I was just getting mad and whatever, but it's overstimulating because you're trying to do so many things.
Your buttons are being pushed.
And it's just, people just don't understand. You're trying to do your job, teach your kids. You're trying to be the counselor. You're trying to be the parent. You're trying to be everything to these kids. You're not just teaching them but how to read and write and do math, whatever. But anyway, so I would come home frustrated, and then something would happen with the boy or whatever. And so it was just like we didn't know how to do conflict. Mm-hmm. And that's something we learned about in the marriage conferences. How to do conflict, mm-hmm. how to fight fair is what they said, I think. How to fight fair. So that was one of our problems too, is we start yelling back and forth and not really.
And your spouse is not your enemy.
Yeah.
You are not my enemy. No. That's one they kept harping on. You are not my enemy. So after our marriage conference, while we were still there that weekend, before we made it home, we decided we're gonna make a difference. We're gonna take what we learned and we're gonna change our marriage. And we did. So Lori, start us off. Let's talk about some of the solutions we made, how we made it better.
So one of the best things we ever did to better our marriage was discovering Ryan and Selena Frederick, Fierce Marriage Team. Mm-hmm. Fierce Marriage. We'll get into these books later, but
you look them up on whatever your favorite podcast.
I don't remember. I think he found them first. I don't remember how you.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it was on Facebook or something. I don't know what it was, but let's check this podcast out. So we went to whatever podcast site we use, and we looked up Fierce Marriage.
And I think
Fierce Marriage.
When we went to this conference, in the book that they give you to work through, they quote different people, and Ryan and Selena Frederick are quoted in that book. So I don't know if that's kind of where we heard of them first, but I think so. So we started listening to their podcast. They release an episode like every Thursday.
They are candid.
They also have a marriage, Fierce Family.
Yep.
deal with parenting and stuff. But our kids are older, so we don't listen to that part. But the Fierce Marriage is really good. So we started listening to their podcasts. We started reading their books, and we would sit down. We would read whatever book we were doing. We would read a little bit each time, and then we'd sit down every night and go.
Oh, here's one of the books, How a Husband Speaks by Ryan Frederick. Yep, you do. You have a wife speaks right there. Yep.
No, that's
The Pursuit. Yeah.
But they have these. How a husband speaks, how a wife speaks. So they go together, and you read them together at the same time. So he'd read a chapter, I'd read a chapter, and we'd sit down and talk about.
Then the 30-Day Pursuit.
There's 30-Day Pursuit.
Then there's a prayer book.
This one, there's a wife and a husband version of this, so you read that together. And then this one, I'm actually still reading this one, See Through Marriage.
That's Ryan, Selena Frederick.
Yeah, all those are Ryan and Selena Frederick. So and they had a 40-day prayer book too, so I don't have that one with me. But so we spent a lot of time reading books last year.
And we did what they told us. Yeah.
You got to do what they tell you to do, or reading and going to these conferences is pointless.
It is pointless. It was cool because they say, "Hey, this is what you're going to do. Plan a date somewhere you've never been, or write a letter, or leave a note for her to see, or something." It worked. It was cool.
Yep.
Really good. Okay. Number 2, we recognized that we had not been effectively communicating with each other. We understood that we had poor communication. And you might think, well, I'm glad we don't have poor communication. Just
you probably do.
You probably do. Just evaluate yourself. You probably do. And we made it a top priority with each other to communicate more effectively. We started sending each other random messages. Just send your husband or spouse or your wife a text message throughout the day, and maybe leave her a note somewhere, or leave him a note somewhere. Something different. It could be just, hey, be creative. It could be, I'm thinking about you, or I hope you have a good day, or it could be, hey, can't wait to see you, or ready for tonight, or hey, if you're at that level, I'm ready for you tonight. That stuff worked for us. We would leave each other notes to find in the house, in our cars, in lunch boxes.
Yeah, he left me one just the other day. I think it's still sitting right here.
That's right. So a year later, we're still doing that. We learned how to appreciate communicating to each other again, and we'll talk more about that. But you have to do more than surface. You have to go deep down inside yourselves, communicate. And you can't do that surface level stuff. And you can't communicate like this. Yep. No, you can't. You can't communicate like that. Okay, Lori, number 3.
Right away, when we got back from the weekend to remember, we set our 2 youngest boys down. We have 3. Our oldest one is married and has his own family, so we just have 2 in the house. We told them we were going to do everything we can to better our marriage, and that includes how to deal with them. We told them that we realized our marriage comes first before them. So this might sound harsh, but if you don't focus on your marriage, that leads to a lot of other problems.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be effective dealing with your kids. Your kids need to see that unity in your marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And so we explained to them that we're going to work on us first, and then y'all come second. So, and we explained why, and we don't have time to go into all that right now, but work on your marriage first, work on your relationship with God, work on your relationship with each other, and then your kids. And just being a blended family too, I think that helped us because they saw us as united in that, they've already dealt with being left once already. And I think that them had been seeing us argue and fight, and maybe in the back of their mind they were thinking, okay, are we fixing to go through this again? But now that they know that we're committed to this marriage and we're gonna stick this thing out, so they hopefully have that security of knowing that nobody's going anywhere. We're staying.
Well, then when we deal with them, we're dealing with them together. It ain't just, well, she's going to deal with them and get me involved whenever she wants to. We're involved together, and they see that and they know that, and it benefits them. Okay, next, we both agreed that we would set aside time each day and night where we spent time together. And if you wanted, I recommend you do that. Take time every day. Whatever is in the way of your quality time. Put that away. If it's, well, I mean, I'm working. Well, get home a little earlier. Whatever it is. Well, I know I go out with the guys or go out with the girls. Hey, tell them you got to go home early. Whatever it is. We decided to spend 1 hour or more at the end of the night sitting on the couch together. That's what we decided. We're going to sit on the couch together at 8:30 or so, and that's going to be our quality time. And no TVs, no phones, no put our books down unless it's something that we're going to discuss. Just us. You might think that's tough. It is tough. It's tough to put that stupid phone down. It's tough to turn the TV off.
You gotta be intentional.
You gotta be intentional, and just focus on each other. At first, we would read our devotionals.
We were reading through all these books.
We read through all these books, and hey, here's what I read today in my book.
Yep.
And we discuss it. We bought a marriage Bible from the Family Life group, the Family Life Marriage Bible, and we would read that. We still do time to time.
Mm-hmm. And it's got a lot of little extra things in the Bible about marriage and things you can do, date night things or devotional things or just all kinds of stuff in there. So we would read whatever Bible passage he'd pick out, and then there might be a little extra something on the side. So we'd read that. We'd read through that too.
Some of them things are good. Like when you're reading in Genesis chapter 2 or 3, it'll tell you, they'll have a little extra piece on God's covenant of marriage or things that pertain to married life. Mm-hmm. And we would discuss things we learned from our books, and we would talk about issues and maybe discuss our next date. We wrote down, I don't have the photo with me, but I wrote, we would both write down questions to talk about. Like what are some things that we are doing good, or what are some things that we need to work on, or what are some things we need to improve on. And we set down some rules. These are the things that we're going to do, and these are the things we're going to don't say to each other, and here's how we're not going to, we established some ground rules. And the first couple months were really critical. So we established, these are the things that we're doing bad. These are the things that we're doing good. These are things we need to work on. But in order for us to do that, we had to sit down and be intentional. So that 1 hour a night helped us do that. Mm-hmm. Anything you want to add on that?
I don't think so.
Okay, number 5, Lori.
So we started going on date nights again. So we set aside days, maybe a few times a month when we went out, just the two of us, and had some time to ourselves. We might go to a nice restaurant, coffee shop, walk in the park, just make going out together a party. So our girls are older, so it's a little easier for us to do that. If your kids are younger, you might have to enlist a babysitter or something like that. But whether you could do it once a week or every other week or once a month, set aside time to either, we have a nice park nearby that has a walking trail. It's shaded. Mm-hmm. It's really pretty. It's got squirrels and nature things. And so sometimes on Saturday morning, if the weather's good, we'll go out there and just walk around and talk.
Ain't going this weekend.
No, it's raining this weekend.
Tornado weather.
So, yeah, and then we have in the next town, maybe 20 minutes down the road from us, there's a bookstore, the coffee shop in there. So our date nights, we like to go out to eat and go to that bookstore.
That's right.
Go to the coffee shop, get us coffee, and walk around, look at books. We're book nerds, so we like to look at books.
That's right. I got a fancy day. It doesn't involve a $200 meal. It involves the bookstore and the coffee shop.
Yep.
Fancy.
And then, so we try to set aside a couple of weekends a year where we go somewhere together for the weekend. And then, just different things like that. So sometimes it's just a date night. Sometimes it might just be going out to eat and coming back. So we're only gone a couple hours. We don't have to be gone a long time. Just getting away for a little bit of time, just where it's just us, just really helps that quality time. So sometimes we've even a couple of times gone out on a Saturday morning to get the oil changed in the car.
Yeah.
And we'll go get a coffee, and then while we're sitting waiting for the oil to be changed, we'll have a few minutes to sit and talk and drink our coffee.
Go on lunch date, whatever.
So we've tried to find those little times where we can just have a date. And like we said, it doesn't have to be fancy. While we're sitting talking, getting our oil changed, while we're going walking in the park. And if you can't get totally away. Maybe when you get your kids put to bed, and then just have some time for you and your husband, and just drink coffee, and if you like coffee or tea or whatever you like, and just have some time together. Just make sure that you're trying to set aside that time together. So you got to be intentional about it. So it's not going to happen by itself. You got to be, okay, we're going to do this at this time, and we're not going to let anything get in the way. And so that's what we've done.
Yep. And one time we went to the Starbucks.
Yeah.
And we still do it, not as much as we used to, but this time last year, for probably 3 months, we were big about the whole conversation starters.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I made some kind of a conversation starters, and I gave her a card, and I had a card, and said we're going to go to the Starbucks, and we're going to sit down, and we're going to ask each other these questions. So we're sitting there in the middle of Starbucks asking each other questions, and people are looking at us. And one guy was looking at us like,
there's a guy sitting at the next table over going,
people are weird. But that's good. You know what, though? It's good to be out in public and showing other people, like, this is what a marriage could be.
Mm-hmm.
They're out there trying to be intentional and trying to stimulate their marriage in a better way. So that was something that's a story we're always going to remember.
Yep.
Okay. Now,
big one.
The big one. And excuse me, this is one of the things that YouTubers do that they make you wait till the very end for the big one. And you might think this is the toughest thing to talk about is your sex life in marriage. But you know what the problem is? Here's the problem. Here's the problem is, just like she was saying, churches don't talk about marriage.
Mm-mm.
Churches don't prepare you for marriage.
They think they do.
They think they do.
They don't.
Oh my goodness. And when you're in a marriage and you have problems and you think, you know what, we solved this on our own.
Mm-hmm.
This is something we learned on our own. None of this stuff we learned in our Christian organization, Christian institution. And God bless our pastor and God bless the people at our churches, but you don't learn this stuff, especially the issue of sex life. You hear that God created Adam and Eve, and the two became one flesh, and they told them be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth, and it's supposed to be sex supposed to be enjoyed in marriage, and you hear all that stuff. Okay, that's it. I mean, that's it. Okay. Even if you're saying, you know what, we're going to save ourselves from marriage. I'm going to be pure. And when we get married, it's going to be great. We're going to have sex. It's going to be great. It doesn't work like that. You know what? I think now that we know what we know, we've been on this year-long journey. I think the number one, but the problem is twofold. Number one, Christianity is getting better. Churches and Christian institutions do a deficient job. I'm trying to be nice. And teaching married couples how to be intimate with each other. And so that you want to know, how do I do this? How do we do this thing called sexual intimacy? How do we do it? You learn it from the world around you. You learn it from TV. You learn it from the internet. And you learn it from secular music or the books. And I don't think back, I'm kind of getting off on a tangent here, but some of the shows we used to watch when we was growing up, like I'm going to show my age, like the show Heart to Heart. Mm-hmm. Every episode, you see them the husband and wife at the end of the show in bed together. And so that's an image in your mind. They're in bed together tonight. That's the way it's going to be. Marriage is going to be just like the Hearts.
Jonathan Hart.
Yeah, Jonathan and what's her name? Stephanie Hart. Stephanie Powers. In bed together. It's going to be, or whatever. It's going to be just like on them TV shows. It's going to be great. So we've already got the wrong image, even if it ain't a pornographic image. We've got this image that when you're married, if you're just like these TV shows or these romance books or these daytime dramas, when you get married, sex is going to be great. We found out that wasn't the case. And it wasn't anything that we both did wrong. But we figured it out. And when it got to this part in the book about sexual intimacy, we were both kind of like, you know,
It was like,
this is tough. And there was these books out in the foyer, and you know, they had the little tables with the books, and one of them was right there, Sex and Marriage. We're like, nope, not that book.
you're not getting that book.
Not that book. But we tackled it head on.
You don't really need that book.
You don't need that
If you
book.
know how to do marriage,
Yeah.
in a godly way, you don't need that book. And that's when you say that church doesn't teach about this, it's because they don't teach the rest of how to be married as a Christian husband and wife. They teach don't have sex before you're married. Husbands or some wives submit to your husbands and don't get divorced. That's pretty much what you get taught in church.
Don't have adultery. Don't get divorced. That's it.
Yeah. You don't hear all the other stuff. And so that's why I said earlier, when we left that conference the first time, we were like, why don't we ever hear this stuff taught in church? You know,
So,
ever hear it.
I got one page here, maybe one episode here, maybe in a month or so. We'll have to sit down and talk about it. We'll do maybe a whole episode on this. But like I said earlier, sexual intimacy was a problem. It was a big problem for us, almost non-existent. And she wasn't desiring me, and I wasn't making her feel desired. And we didn't know that. We didn't know that. So we tackled this head on because people at the conference said, you guys got to tackle this. And they gave us some tools. They gave us some things to think about. So we broke down the awkwardness. We just started talking about it. And like that book, you know, the book, you don't need the book, but the book helps.
It helps.
It does help. And there's nothing wrong with that. As long as it's the right kind of, we are Christians and we recommend you get a book with that's from a Christian perspective. Don't go to the Adam and Eve store.
Yeah.
Or don't go to the store, the XXX store on the side of the road.
Yeah.
And get you one of them worldly books. The session at the marriage conference on sexual intimacy really helped us break down the walls. And we had some walls. We had some walls between us. It wasn't her, it was both of us. And we had both built these walls. And we even bought that one book that we said, we don't need that book. We bought it. We bought it the next week. We were like, let's get that book. And it was a married sex book. And it was a Christian pastor and a Christian therapist. They got together and made it. It was a good book. We would have never, even the day we went to that conference, not getting that book. We would never thought about reading that book about sex. But then we did. We were both resolved to work at our sexual intimacy issues. And we overcame those issues and transformed our sexual intimacy. And not getting any details, but it's like we was on our second honeymoon. And you can too. You can do that too. I want to give you a list, and I'm gonna tackle some of the big ones. She's gonna tackle a few. Some of the things that we did to make our not so great sex life, and not so great. It was not so great, not so great at all. And there's some things that we're gonna have to discuss. Maybe we're not gonna talk about it in this episode. Maybe in the future we may talk a little further, but we both had to discover about ourselves that we had known before. We like, if I'd known that 12 years ago, we wouldn't have this problem. But we had to discover some things about ourselves. So we had to break down the walls. But we went from a not so great sex life to a thriving sex life. The real solution is twofold. Number one, not her. Husbands, I learned how to make her feel loved and valued and respected. And I made her want to be intimate with me. And she saw that change. And she recognized he's different. He's pursuing. I'm going to pursue you. So I pursued her, and she recognized that. And she acknowledged that. And she, what do you call it? Was receptive.
Responded
to my pursuing her. And so that was the spark that just snowballed into something awesome. So we practice in something we call the simmering approach. And I think we first heard about that in the Ryan Selena, the Frederick's Fierce Marriage podcast. But I've read it in a bunch of books. We've read it so many times now. The simmering approach. There's chapters in these books about simmering. This is basically the romancing build up in phases. You can't just, it's kind of like using the cooking analogy. You can't just say, okay, just like we're going to microwave some popcorn, I'm going to sit down by you, and in 30 seconds, I'm going to get you ready. Okay, 30 seconds, let's go.
We had talked to each other, spending time all week, but now we're going to sit down in 30 seconds.
Hey, I'm going to sit down right next to you, and the next 30 seconds, we're going to go jump in bed.
Yep.
No, it doesn't work like that. Some of you, it might. But it's like the whole crock pot method. It takes time. You got to build up to it. And sometimes the building up might be a day. Sometimes it might be 2 or 3 days of stuff that you have to do. And guys, it's worth it. Some of the things we would do in the simmering approach is practice non-sexual touch. Kind of like, just, it ain't got to be it could be just something, like just a hand on the shoulder or holding their hands whenever we would go out in public or walking in the church. And people would turn their heads. Y'all look so cute holding hands. I'm thinking, why don't you hold your husband's hand? Or why don't you hold your wife's hand? Everybody should hold their spouse's hand.
Shouldn't be a big deal.
It shouldn't be a big deal. I get it. I got it. I love the compliments. But we're setting an example, folks. I'm holding my wife's hand. Hopefully other guys will see that. The hugs and kisses. I know most of you that you're in, we think we have a good marriage. I give her a hug. I give her a kiss. Gotta go. I got it. We got our little kiss. But we went to the extreme. Something that Ryan and Selena Frederick talk about, the 15-minute kiss, our 15-second kiss. 15 minutes. Yeah, that's more than non-sexual. But we do the 15 before we left for go to work.
Yeah.
The 15-second kiss, where the hug, and I actually timed it one day, and I think we went probably 25, 30 seconds. But the good kiss before work, is like it's affectionate, but it ain't too much. The love notes throughout the day, just cards every once in a while, just something. Be creative. What's something else that non-sexual touch thing?
I think sitting on the couch and he put his arm around me or put his hand on my leg or something like that, or vice versa, or my rub his arm or something like that.
And look, hey, she is recognizing me. She's showing affection. Something else is she's going through some knee issues, meniscus tear, right?
Yeah, meniscus tear.
Acute meniscus tear, and we didn't know that last year. We finally figured it out, but last year we didn't know that. She was having terrible knee pain, so I'd say stretch your knees out, and I'd get some medicated lotion, and I'd rub her knees and rub her feet, and she'll. My feet's been hurting all day. Stretch your feet out, and I'd rub her those feet, that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff helps, guys. You got to do that. So I was determined that I was going to pursue Lori and make her feel loved, and that sometimes it takes it. You have to do things like take something off her plate. Don't expect her to do all the housework, all the cooking, all the cleaning. Husbands, you do that. Or if it's the other way, if the husband is the one that does that, and maybe the wife, I don't know. Some guys do everything, maybe they do, I don't know. But
take turns.
Take turns. If she's stressed about the dishes, you do the dishes. If she's stressed about the clothes, you do the clothes, or at least help her. And I started doing those things, and those things did it simmering. All right. Okay, Lori. Next topic.
So we started going to bed together at the same time every night. So he would go to bed first, and maybe an hour later I'd go to bed. I'll be on my phone or whatever.
Not because she didn't want to be with me.
That's just what we did. And so we decided that we were going to start going to bed at the same time every night. And so we've been doing that ever since. So I think the only time we haven't done that is, there's been a couple times where he was sick for a few days, or I was sick for a few days, or something like that. Maybe he just a handful of times. Maybe I'm just worn out. Whatever. We're going to go to bed early tonight, so we just go to bed at the same time, just a little earlier. But I think the only time we haven't done that is when one of us was sick.
Mm-hmm.
Where I think there was a couple times, maybe once or twice, where he had to be overnight somewhere for work or whatever. But we're here together and we're both healthy and we're going to bed at the same time. And not sexually necessarily. We just we might watch TV together. We might talk or whatever. But we're going to bed at the same time. We're not. He goes to bed an hour before me, and then I go to bed later.
And but that's another one of those things that the simmering things. Because if look, when a wife sees that the only time the husband wants him and her to go to bed together is when they want to be physical. It's kind of a turnoff.
Yeah, it really is.
So when you have that, we're going to bed together every night, 7 days a week. You might be intimate 2. You might be intimate once, or you might be intimate every other night. But
you're not just doing it just so you can.
The husband don't say, okay, I'm going to bed. We're going to bed together every night, so it's going to happen every night. If that's your goal, then probably after about a week or 2, she's not going to be going to bed. She's not going to be going to bed with you at the same time. She's going to start avoiding that.
Yeah.
So, and I tell her we go to bed and we're together at the same time. And I'll say, I like this. I'm glad we go to bed together every night because it's very refreshing. It's the warm embrace. Maybe talking to each other before you go to sleep. And it's just very calming.
De-stressing.
There's so much benefits. Go to bed together, same time. Anything else with that?
Nope.
Okay. Now here's a big one, guys. And you guys need to really think about this because this is something that the women are probably better at than us. Is make your bedroom romantic. And we both kind of got together. I started it, and you bought the bed sheets and the new the comforter,
new bedspread.
Yep. But
cleared out all the clutter.
I mean, the bedroom was just a place to go to sleep. If you want to change your sexual intimacy, if you want to be romantic, your bedroom's got to be romantic. Your bedroom can't be a cluttered up place.
Yeah, because then you're thinking about, I need to clean that off.
Yep. But put some candles out. Make the room smell good.
We got a little scentsy thing in there.
Yeah.
You can turn on once in a while.
We put some nice pictures on the wall, and we made our room romantic.
Just made it look nice.
And maybe we'll stop there. We won't get into much detail, but maybe another episode we'll talk more about that. Yeah. Okay, go next topic.
The next one is scheduling our intimacy nights. So we literally sat down. We did this with our phones so that we could, we would put something in the phones that this night we're going to be intimate, this night we're going to be intimate. And you might be like, what in the world? But at first when we came back from the conference, we really didn't need that. But we did it anyway.
We was in the honeymoon phase, so we was in the honeymoon phase.
We didn't need that.
So
but
we didn't need that.
Just with everything else in life,
it was driving.
You get busy, and when we went to the conference, it was towards the end of the school year. Yep. So we had the whole summertime, and then when school started back up, the stress starts back up. Yep. The busy days start back up, and I try not to bring work home, but I end up having to once or twice a week to bring stuff home. So we would schedule, okay, this night and this night or whatever. And so he would know and I would know it's going to happen at some point. So he's not going to have to worry about, I'm not, she's not wanting to be with me or whatever. So, and then I would know mentally, because I have to be mentally ready, not just, okay, here it is. We're going to do this. So that would help me kind of clear my mind and mentally prepare myself. So even though you might think, well, that's dumb, you don't need to put that on a schedule. It really does help to both of us to know, okay, it's coming. So if you're worried about And honestly, it takes the stress. I feel like it takes the stress off me. Okay, is this going to happen? You know, it's not a guessing game anymore. And can it happen between the scheduled nights? Yeah. I mean, if you want it to.
That's the whole benefit of going to bed together at the same time.
If it's a spontaneous thing, that's fine. But if it's not, you at least know you're going to have these particular times. So it does help. That way, I think.
Yep. And I wrote down a note here.
Okay.
The whole being mentally ready, guys. Husbands, I'm telling you, you may not know this. I didn't know that, but not unless you have one of those rare thinking women. Women got to be ready for things. They got to have their mind prepared, and that's where the simmering comes in. If
you're, let me just say that,
how would you not be ready? How would you not be mentally prepared?
Well, like you said, with if stressing out over the dishes, stressing out over the laundry, or whatever. If I'm, and he'll say, sit down, I got it. I'll do it. Don't worry about those dishes. I'll get them. Don't worry about that laundry. I'll put it away. And he knows that I'm stressing over it. So if you see that your wife is stressing over, oh, I got to get the dishes done. I got the pile of laundry over here. Go do some of that stuff. And then she's not going to have to stress over it anymore. And don't think of it as, oh, well, if I do the laundry, then I want to get some action later. Don't think of it like that. Just think of it as, I want to take something off her plate.
Mm-hmm.
And not that all the chores are her responsibility, but if you see that, he sees that I'm like worried about cleaning the house or whatever, he'll be like, don't worry about that. I'll do it, such and such. Like this weekend, we ended up having a family emergency. So he was like, you go take care of that. I'll get the bathroom cleaned up and I'll do this and this. So I wasn't sitting there stressing, oh, I still got all this stuff to do when I get home. But he had it taken care of before I got home. So those things, mentally prepare your wife for that. So I'm not stressing over all that stuff that needs to get done.
Yeah. No, and look, guys, I'm going to tell you right now, if you're not willing to think like that, you're not willing to, work them things out like that, to understand how a woman thinks, then you're just going to keep struggling. You're going to keep struggling.
Yep.
And something else that, going back to the schedule thing, that Chris, I don't know if it was the guys or did he say it when everybody was there talking about scheduling sex. He said he said at our recent conference, one of the speakers, Chris, said, and look, guys, or was it his wife said, and maybe even schedule it, on the calendar.
Yeah, he did say that, yeah.
And say, you know what, maybe it sounds crazy, but you know what's crazier than not? If you don't schedule sex, is what?
You don't have it.
It ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. So scheduling sex is better than not having sex.
Mm-hmm.
So at least when you schedule it, and there's been some times where not just her, just me too. Say, we need to move it to another night.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's rare.
I mean, it's happened a handful of times.
It's rare. Over 12 and a half months.
Something happened that maybe it was just a really stressful day at work that day, or some things came up and we just had a busy night and we didn't really get to prepare, I guess you could say, but or you're just not in the right frame of mind.
Mm-hmm.
So we do have that flexibility because we know, okay, it may not happen tonight, but it's going to happen tomorrow night. So you don't have to worry about that.
When you're in tune with each other, then like we said, the scheduling is just to keep you from going stale, to keep you from drifting apart. It's a way to stay connected. But don't mean that just because, okay, this is the day, that's the only day. It don't mean that. You can still have those spontaneous nights, but the spontaneity is not going to happen if you're not in tune with each other.
All the other stuff.
All the other stuff that we said. Yep. So I got one more thing, and we need to wrap it up. We're getting close to an hour here. We figured out what worked as far as the whole sexual intimacy thing. In some of these books we've read and some of the podcasts we heard is one of the problems with women, wives, is they're not satisfied. And I guess, can you see how that would If it's never good for you, or it's
I
nothing.
think that goes either way if it's not good for either one.
Yep.
But I think with women, at least for me, like you said, it's more of the mental thing. If I feel like, I'm not valued or loved, then I'm not satisfied. So I think that just depends on, you just have to know your partner.
Yeah, right? I'm thinking more of the whole actual act.
Yeah.
That, it ain't benefiting you, then that's going to cause you not to want to be involved anymore.
Right.
So most of that's on the husband. I'm telling you guys, you have to learn your wife. You have to study your wife. You have to figure out what works for her. And it may take, once you decide we're going to better our intimacy life, we're going to go through this process, it may take a couple of months. It may take 6 months or a year. But I'm going to tell you, without going into, you can get to that point to where you're both on the same page. And that whole intimacy time is good for both of you. Does that sound right without going into detail?
Yep.
So, and once you get to that point, it makes it so much easier, because you hear story after story after story after story of wives, especially mostly wives. One of the wife or the husband is, it's never good enough. It's never good enough. It's never good enough. I just don't feel fulfilled. I don't feel fulfilled, and so I don't have a desire because it's never good enough for me. Husbands and wives, I guess too. Wives. I mean, that's wives play a part. You can work that out, and I think you can pray and seek God's guidance, but you can work that out in your marriage. If there's some kind of a medical issue or some kind of a physical issue, maybe see a doctor. Maybe it might be on the female side. See a doctor or get help or maybe some medication. But if that's something that's still, you're at the point where that's a problem, pray and try to work it out.
Yep.
Anything else before we wrap it up?
I don't think so.
So, we talked about a lot of hard things, a lot of tough things. So, but our marriage is thriving now, mainly because of this Weekend to Remember in some of our books. Let me go over some of the books here. We've already mentioned some. Yeah. Ryan, Selena, How a Husband Speaks. Leading and loving your wife through godly communication. Good book. There's one for the wife too.
We talked about the pursuit. We talked about this is just a fierce marriage.
Yes.
This is
get that book.
You can only afford one book. Yes. This is the one you need to get right.
Yes. This will tell you who Ryan and Selena Frederick is, and yep.
And then this book here. This book's been around for a long time, like 20 years or something like that. So this one is like the revised edition.
Gary Thomas, and he's the 5 love language guy, right?
Yeah. No, that's Gary Chapman.
Gary Chapman. Okay, you're right. But that's a good one.
This guy works a lot with Ryan and Selena.
Yeah, he's the pastor guy.
Yeah.
There's another one, Tony Evans. Forget about all the negativity towards him the last year or so. Tony Evans still, I consider him a godly man. Don't throw away your Tony Evans books. Kingdom Marriage. There's a Kingdom Man and Kingdom Wife. Yep. What else is over there? Did we? There's another one. Ron and Nan Deal. Ron Deal is the blended family guy, but we
just got this weekend. Yeah.
This is one of the books he wrote on marriage. He also does marriage issues. This is an incredible book. Incredible. I'm reading it, and I'm telling you, this is one of the books I'm gonna have to read 2 or 3 times because it's just on another level. It's another good book. And here's another one. We've got a couple of these books. This one we brought last weekend. Sexual Intimacy and Marriage. It's from a Christian's perspective, by Tony and Lois Evans. So if Tony Evans approves it, then I approve it. This is a intimacy and marriage Christian perspective. So I recommend this book. Now, we're reading through this book. It's a good book. So just break down that wall.
There's one over there that's not over here. It's on apology languages.
Yes.
Same guy that wrote the 5 love languages. This is on apology languages, and that's one of the areas where we struggle. So we got that.
Yeah, we're doing better. So, anyways, next week we are going to talk more about the marriage conference, some of the takeaways, some of the things we learned, and why we recommend you going and what you're going to learn if you do that. So, thank you for showing up. And if you have any questions or comments, please do comment, and we will I'll try to leave those references in there for you. So thank you and God bless. All right, here we go.